When I was 17 years old, I put out an album while my mother was dying of cancer. My music will speak for itself. My mother will be proud.
Natia Jessica Kirkland, aka Lil Mama, born October 4th, 1989. Today's feature is an artist that's been through a lot in her time in the music industry, the ups and the downs, and just as she was praised for being one of the few young women not conforming to the unwritten rules set forth for females in entertainment that say you can only be successful by over-sexualizing yourself, she was crushed all over media for a mistake she made September 13, 2009 when she walked on stage while Jay-Z and Alicia Keys were performing in her hometown, New York. The stage crash was met with instant closed arms, especially from Jay-Z, who looked overly puzzled and at one point even attempted to shoulder brush her away. For this, Lil Mama, as she recalls, was one of the first rappers to be bashed on the rise social site Twitter, a platform that started in 2006 and has since become known as a place bashing is the least you can expect at this point. When her hit song Lip Gloss released in 2007, Lil Mama was just 17 years old and it became a top 10 song in the US on the Billboard Top 100. It pushed her to the forefront and helped drive the buzzing dance rap scene at the time. She released her debut album in 2008, 4 months after losing her mother due to her struggle with breast cancer, which she admits was a tough time having her label still pressure her to release the album as soon as possible. The album Voice of the Young People ended up being a successful album for Lil Mama, peaking in the top 25 in the US on Billboard and top 3 in rap, selling just under gold status to date. That was 16 years ago, and she hasn't released another album since. In 2011, she was a featured guest on The Breakfast Club, which is a hip-hop morning show that often interviews different public figures and is known for having a comedic humor to it, led by corner seat occupier Charlemagne the God, who attacked Lil Mama the entire show, from her music not being relevant, her audacity to stage bomb Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, her old but young looks, her body, and her confidence, all while co-hosts DJ Envy and Angela Yee looked and laughed on or just stayed completely silent. At one point, she broke down, explaining how hard it was for her to even make it to where she was, speaking on a large platform as a featured guest. Although the blogs would later spin it as if Charlemagne made her cry, she was actually emotional, speaking about the loss of her mother, whom she didn't receive the correct amount of time to mourn, with everyone pulling her in different directions at such a young age. Lil Mama was supposed to be the next it girl from New York, but for these reasons, her growth was stunted. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Lil Mama is a rapper from Brooklyn, New York that had an interesting path to stardom, spending 7 years of her young life living in a shelter from kindergarten to the beginning of her 8th grade year. Her mother and father were both musicians, although they didn't receive their big break like their only daughter did, though her father would start his own label and sign Lil Mama to her first record deal. She was fortunate enough to attend dance lessons growing up and even aspired to become a professional dancer before her music took off. She traveled to Atlanta to work with producer James Chambers, who helped craft the song Lip Gloss, which was picked up by New York radio and took off. In early 2007, Jive signed Lil Mama, further promoting her song through music video that was seen all over 106 & Park and MTV, leading to her debut and the only album of her career. Stunt number 1, Early Time Off. We've spoken about time often and how it can affect an artist in positive or negative ways. It's one of the most important elements of success in all walks of life, but can be detrimental to a music artist's career when they for whatever reason miss the opportune time to show up. In Lil Mama's case, I completely understand because, like mentioned, she was going through a lot not long before the release of her debut album. In 2007, Lil Mama went from a no-name shopping her very own dance record to signing with Jive and the record blowing up in the next 6 months. Jive Records is labeling her the new voice of the young people, and at the time, her song Lip Gloss matched the energy in the music scene. Then, by year's end, her mother loses her fight with cancer in the middle of Lil Mama doing what she could to promote the song as well as prepare an album that Jive is knocking down her door to have completed before the buzz of her single wears off. Voice of the Young People drops April 29, 2008, almost a year after her top 10 hit single, which did cause her to lose some steam. But then shortly after the release, she decided to take a break from the music altogether a little after the album at 18 years old to take a position as a judge for America's Best Dance Crew for a total of 7 seasons from 2008 to 2012. What surprised most fans was that she took this time off right at the biggest moment of her young career, but for Lil Mama, she needed space to grieve the death of a person she respected and held dear to her heart, who was also one of her biggest inspirations to pursue music, her mom. It was the needed thing to do, but it stalled her career long enough that when she did return to releasing music in 2010, she wasn't nearly embraced like she was earlier. None of her songs released after 2008 charted as she aged and lost her voice of the youth. Stunt number 2, Crashing Out. This growth stunt may be the main reason Lil Mama's music didn't penetrate like it should have in the early 2010s. Sunday, September 13, 2009, Radio Music Hall, New York City, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys were set to perform their hit New York City anthem, Empire State of Mind, a song that became like chalk on a chalkboard for me, how much they played it everywhere that year. Regardless, it was one of the featured performances of the night off Jay-Z's highly anticipated Blueprint 3 album that had just released a few days prior. During the performance, Lil Mama later revealed that as she sat and listened, something moved her more and more to add herself to the stage with 2 of her favorite artists, both from New York City, in the biggest moment of both their careers at that point. As Jay and Alicia both posed on stage for their performance finale that was supposed to be a great moment for hip-hop and R&B, as 2 heavyweights in their genres were performing their first and only song together for the first time, Lil Mama can be seen right beside them posing as well, as if anything about that song or the artist had anything to do with her. Jay-Z was visibly upset with the stage crash, while Alicia Keys played on with it. Lil Mama not only misread the room, she misread her own self-importance when it comes to hip-hop and the caliber of those artists and the moment, sad to say. This was Alicia and Jay's first time on stage together, 2 icons, and nowhere in anyone else's head said to themselves, Lil Mama would be a good addition to this moment. Except of course Lil Mama herself. To say she was dragged after the stage crash would be an understatement. Neither Jay nor Alicia came to her defense. In fact, they both expressed their displeasures with her actions, and it wasn't until nearly a decade later they forgiven her and acknowledged her profuse apologies over the years. That moment turned Lil Mama into a meme and the biggest not reading the room joke arguably of all time. She was clowned everywhere, and since then it's become what she's known for publicly. I feel for her because she made an honest mistake, and neither of her then idols came to her defense in the media. Alicia even said in an interview that Lil Mama should have sat there and enjoyed the music in her seat. It killed Lil Mama's confidence and changed her public perception from there.
I actually saw the tap tap. Later? Later on, and I was actually embarrassed. I was like, whoa.
And Jay was like, so you ain't see that? And he was like, no, you ain't just see what just happened?
Cool with her, being excited, but, you also have to understand that, people put in work to make that performance happen. That took weeks. Yeah, I was a little angry, to be honest. But, what I'm going to do?
Jay-Z wasn't feeling that. Jay-Z feels like I disrespected him.
Appreciate her being overwhelmed and inspired, but we would have preferred she did it from her seat.
Wow.
Stunt number 3, Leaving a Sinking Ship. Lil Mama, around 2012, would then go independent at the wrong time in her career. Jive Records, J Records, and Arista were being absolved by RCA Records, meaning the artists signed to those smaller labels would release music through RCA should they agree to re-sign. Lil Mama decided to take the opportunity to go independent instead of signing with RCA, and she lost the major label engine behind her music. An argument can be made that on RCA, Lil Mama would have became shelved or received little promotion anyway, with all the other artists now joining together under one roof. Artists that were much more successful and more certain to make substantial return on investment than Lil Mama. Then, to compound the leave, she also decided on another hiatus from music, stating she wasn't in the right mindset to release new music. For 3 years, nothing released from Lil Mama. Then in 2015, her single Sausage released and wasn't a big hit, with fans calling it corny and not feeling Lil Mama's growth into adulthood as an artist. She'd released 5, then 4 singles in 2016 and 1 in 2018, conceding to the fact that her music career had peaked. Since then, she didn't release any new music as her career faded to black. All in all, Lil Mama's story of coming from living in shelters to losing her mom at 17-18 years old during the process of the release of her debut album is inspiring. She didn't conform to over-sexualizing herself for fame and relevance like every other female artist in the industry, and that could be another issue with her career, but I respect her for it and for her passion for hip-hop and staying strong through all she's went through. Solid artist who had at least an opportunity, but for these reasons, her growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.